Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, and by Rain-X, Hum by Verizon, and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb, and welcome everyone to MotorWeek podcast number 194, and a very special podcast it is. We're all fresh back from the 2018 LA Auto Show, and we're going to talk primarily about what was new there. We'll also hit a viewer question, maybe a rant and rave, and to start with, if you watch MotorWeek or read any of the press, you know that auto shows seem to be fading into history as far as new vehicle introductions by manufacturers go. That certainly does not seem to have been the case in LA for 2018, where basically there were more all-new vehicles introed there than almost any other auto show this year, with perhaps the exception of a New York last spring. With that said, we're going to go down a long list. I'm going to turn it over to Greg Singhouse. Oh boy, those of you that are old MotorWeekers, you really know. To Greg Carlos and Stephanie Hart, who will be taking the lead on the discussions. Brian Robinson is here as well.
Hey-o.
And we have Joe Ligo, our producer and our editor, and all around.
I brought snacks.
Yeah,
that's why I'm here.
That's why we keep. He did the catering today. I say, who did I forget? I said Stephanie. All right. We all got to know
I'm
who
here.
Right,
I'm
there
here.
we go. Here we go. Here we go.
You got everybody, including people that aren't even
amazing.
here.
I know. I did. Craig Singhouse, where are you? Anyway, 2020 Jeep Gladiator, long-awaited Jeep pick-em-up truck. Greg?
That's something that we've all been waiting for a long time, and I know Joe Ligo is one of those people who's always a fan of the way back to the AMC days and Jeep and everything.
I'm all about the Comanche, man, so it's good to see another Jeep with a bed.
Yeah.
I owned one, a Comanche, for
That's
a long time.
It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a Jeep Wrangler pickup truck. It looks exactly Jeep Wrangler in the front, pickup in the back.
A four-door Wrangler in the front.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad that my email inbox will be much less busy because every day we got Spy Shot. Now we can see the door handle.
Right. I mean,
here's the front
I joked with
reflector
a
on
friend, this truck has been teased for so long, it's going to need a mid-cycle refresh before it even goes on sale. I mean, I'm just glad it's finally here.
I have to ask you, Stephanie, an awful lot of Jeep Wrangler buyers are women. Did the pickup truck interest you? Do anything for you?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I would love to drive it. It had the dirt bikes in the back, and, we saw it, sort of just from the front, the back, all sorts of angles. They had it there in bright orange, so it was really an eye-catcher.
The lady that...
It got me excited, and I'm like, I can't wait to drive this.
Well, that's high praise. The lady that watches after our dogs when we're away, she basically is a Wrangler owner, and she's wanted to know about it. How much longer is it? Some of the details that came out about that. It's a 6-foot bed, and I think it's 13 inches longer. Chassis,
I don't know the
like
exact number,
but it's a 6-foot bed.
It's significantly longer looking at it.
Yeah.
It's very long.
Goes on sale this spring.
Yeah.
4-door only or 2-door?
4-door only.
But they'll probably sell so many 4-door Wranglers. It would be kind of
it's
dumb.
80% or plus of the production. But this is good news for the people in Jeep land, and I guess in Toledo.
Toledo is going to be very busy.
Yeah. Okay, move on to another. And the U.S. brands didn't have a lot of new product at L.A., I must say. But a big one, 2020 Lincoln Aviator. Basically, Lincoln's answer or upgrade of the Ford Edge, but much more.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mini Navigator, very similar styling. It's
certainly is imposing looking.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of a polarizing look for some people. I always thought it was a pretty classical luxury look for a car. I don't think it's off-putting anyway.
Front end on it.
Sure, it's got those like 30-way adjustable seats or whatever it is. Beautiful on the inside.
And a plug-in hybrid to boot.
Yeah, that's the interesting one is because you do get the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 as standard, which in and of itself, 400 horsepower and quite a bit of torque is a nice engine. But then you go up to the hybrid, the plug-in version, and we're talking like 600 pound-feet of torque, which is just massive. It'll be interesting to see the take rate on either one. I'm sure people are still a little bit wary going into
Yeah.
It's going to be
hybrids.
cost driven. Although that vehicle, I'm sure, will be about 85% leased, probably.
Yeah, so I'm curious because of it's a plug-in hybrid V6, which there aren't many of. The Chrysler Pacifica is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I don't know if there's more in the U.S. probably, but
From U.S. brands. What about the one new piece of technology that seemed to jump out at me, and I'm not sure if it's the first with it, but I think it is, where the key, no more key if you don't want to, you use your phone to unlock the vehicle.
I'm glad you brought that up. So instead of everybody's going to key fobs now, and Lincoln's going even a step further. Like, well, why don't we just make your phone the key? Which is an interesting idea. On the surface, it sounds like a good idea, but I'm curious how it will work in practice.
Yeah, the Tesla Model 3 was that way too, right?
I think,
Yes.
I think you're
You
right.
can do it with your phone?
I
Yeah.
think you're
and
right.
when we tested it, we had problems with it.
Right.
They had to use the backup.
Because
Key
you have
card.
a backup card. That's right. Yeah.
So, moving on, lots of SUVs besides the Aviator, and a big one that people have been talking about for a long time is the return of the Honda Passport for 2019. Comments? This is slotting in between the Pilot and the CR-V.
And it does exactly that. Like in style, you're looking.
Bypass.
Yeah, I mean it is so very Honda in its styling. But
which is what else? What did we say? That it's safe.
It's safe. I mean, if you're into Honda styling, you're gonna like the Passport. One thing I will note is that I sat in the back seat for quite a bit of time because I was there early, and a lot of room, like a ton of room, very close to a Pilot in that aspect, but also not quite as long or big in every dimension.
I liked its wheels, standard 20-inch wheels.
That's
nice.
big for a Honda, I think, is out of the box. It looks like it'll be a huge seller. They haven't had anything in that market actually since the last Passport, which is a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm excited to drive it. I'm going to be driving it in January, so I'm looking
it'll be
forward
on
to
the
that
market
in
soon.
Utah.
Toyota, 'cause we've already seen, of course, a year ago, the new Corolla generation, but now they made news with a hybrid model. Stephanie, you were there covering that.
Yeah, a lot of excitement. I couldn't even really get near the vehicle because people were crowding around it. Everyone
California.
they were just thrilled to see this thing. So I drive a Toyota Corolla, so I'll definitely be excited to drive the hybrid and see how it compares.
What about the adding all-wheel drive to the Prius, which I think is a long overdue and a masterstroke?
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant.
I have a friend who had one for 3 or 4 years, and he really, really, really liked it, but he hated driving it in the winter. So this could be like the tipping point for some people
True.
who want a Prius, but have hesitated because of being scared in the wintertime. Granted, snow tires make a huge difference too, but
What about the RAV? There's a RAV4.
RAV4 Highlander,
Yeah.
both of them. That's how the
I
all-wheel
assume
drive
that's
works.
the same system that
It's-
they're using in the RAV4, but I don't know.
The rear-wheel drive is all electric on those anyway.
There's no physical link between the front and the rear.
But it does look like the salvation of passenger cars is pretty much going. It's certainly anything north of the Carolinas is going to be something with an all-wheel drive on it.
It's
And
I think it'll be a tipping point for a lot of people.
It's a nice counterpunch to cars like the Ioniq or the Insight and dedicated hybrids.
Okay, Subaru also is getting into the hybrid game with the Crosstrek. Now
Round 2.
This is a plug-in hybrid. They're not calling it a plug-in hybrid, but it is a plug-in hybrid.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. Another thing at the show, they had it out there, and they made sure to put the California Clean Air stickers on it just to show off what they can do. But yeah, it's just your run-of-the-mill Crosstrek, which we had as a long-term and we like, and now it just gets 17 miles of EV range, I think. Which I mean, it's not huge these days. It's just kind of like
But that's
It's something.
whatever, but
It's
you need
significant.
something.
It's significant.
It
you
is,
know.
and most people's commutes are less than 20 miles in this country.
Right, and people think that, it's only good when they're on those 17 miles, but anytime you drive anywhere, you get 17 miles for free, basically. So
We found out with all the plugins we get here, you can sort of poo-poo them until you basically take a trip with one, and every time you go do an overnight or something, you charge it back up. It makes a significant difference. That last Pacifica hybrid that we had in here, it showed, in routine use, a big jump in fuel economy over the standard one. So, A car I was impressed with is photographs and also technology-wise. The new Mazda 3. Mazda hasn't given up on sedans. This is a world car for them. It is gorgeous, I think. Looks
I
a
think
lot
so
like a
too.
6.
Yeah, the hatchback was just really a showstopper.
But it's the Sky Active X engine that I think has got the tech people like myself interested. The first production passenger car engine that uses elements of diesel compression technology. So it still has spark plugs, but doesn't use them all the time.
I just think of all the millions of dollars that went into developing it, and would have been better spent just adding a battery like Subaru did to the Crosstrek.
Yeah, that's that's a very good point.
I was actually at a Mazda dealership this weekend, and they were very proud of the fact that Mazda hasn't gone toward battery technology, which I thought is kind of interesting being on the other side. But it's cool. They're still trying to work around the internal combustion engine
Squeeze as
problems,
much
but
out of it as they possibly can.
All I know is that Zach Maskell, our Over the Edge guy, drove an aftermarket Mazda Miata EV. He said that thing was insane. It was so fast. It was like an electric drag racer. So I would have no problem with an electric Mazda, but I might be in the minority
But
there.
you look at the technology here, and you look at what Nissan's doing with the variable compression engines, and to everybody that thinks that gas engines are going to become dinosaurs in the next 10, even 20 years, there's still technology, there's still innovation left in these engines. All right, moving right along. Speaking of Nissan, Maxima and the Murano both got a refresh. Any look better? Any new technology?
Yeah, they looked better. They looked nice. The designers came out on stage and talked to the crowd, which was interesting to hear sort of their thinking behind the new design, which was interesting to hear. And yeah, they look great. I'm actually going to be driving both of them next week in Napa Valley.
You are busy, aren't you?
I am really busy, yeah.
Rack up
This is
those freaking flyer miles.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how they drive because I saw them up there on stage. I saw the curtain, lifted off of both of them. So there was a lot of excitement and hype for the car. So we'll see how they drive next week.
Company that we thought was basically doomed only a few years ago as surviving now as a part of Nissan, Mitsubishi, or at least part of their alliance. They showed an e-Evolution concept. What is it?
Well, it's the Evo name, which they've had a lot of success with, but it's basically just like
something other than
it's that. People see it and go, oh.
It worked for the Eclipse Cross. Come on.
That's right, it did.
No, but basically it's what Mitsubishi sees as their future, rugged SUV, battery powertrain.
But it's also an autonomous vehicle.
Yeah. So they're showcasing what they think they can do in the next few years. But I think maybe even bigger, like you said, Mitsubishi always seems like they're down, but they're never quite out. And they did take home green SUV of the year with the
Outlander Hybrid
PHEV,
Nice.
which was kind of I thought was a nice win for
That's
them.
a pretty because that's not an uncrowded market, so that's a good grab by them.
And the folks that we know that are EV oriented, they were long awaiting that to get on the market. Now I think Mitsubishi now is at least in their alliance with Nissan is probably here to stay for a while. Clearly one of the stars of the show, and one that I would have been standing in the front row for, was the 2020 Porsche 911, the 992. Tell us all about it.
I was in the front row for that one. They took us to the Experience Center out in L.A., and it was cool. They brought every single generation of 911 out before it.
Now that is cool.
And then they brought
And
that
they all
out.
look exactly the same.
The whole concept, like a Wrangler, it's all evolutionary.
Yeah.
You
There's
don't
something
change
to be
it too
said for
much.
consistency.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, so they didn't actually come out with the base Carrera. They're coming right to the Carrera S, 443 base horsepower, twin turbo, flat six. That's the 3-liter. You get into a Carrera 4S and you're talking low 3s to 60, and this is just where we're at with cars now. Stylistically, like Robinson said, it's mostly the same, but there's some sharper angles. The thing that I really like is they brought back the creased, it's a hood, but the front compartment cover, like old 911s, which I think is a really cool touch.
Oh, okay.
They keep making the taillights like smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
They're like barely there now.
Somebody pointed out to me, and now I can't look away, is they actually now have a 911 badge on the back. So you have the Porsche in one font, 911 in another font, and
Carrera
Carrera
and a
S in a third font.
Third font.
which
Graphic
is
designers, man.
Interesting.
You're going to be cringe.
I thought that was a no-no, but apparently with the 911, you can
The
do
Stinger
whatever you
did the
want.
same thing. It had the Stinger badge and the Kia badge and the GT badge were 3 different fonts. You're like, what?
But
Only people then in either graphics or in the media or visual
notice
arts
these
would
things.
notice those
So
things.
yeah, interior is a huge improvement. There's a new shifter. It's a lot less function. It's a simpler function, forward, backwards, kind of like those E-shifters we have.
Is it?
we
It's not an
all-
E-shifter though, is
No,
it?
it's the same basic concept. It's like that little, like essentially a tab that you push
Okay.
forward and back.
Okay.
And really, PDK is all you get right away. Eventually, there will be a 7-speed manual as expected, but right now it's a new 8-speed unit. It is nicer on the inside. There's all kinds of new driver assistance, like I have wet mode. It has sensors inside the wheel well, which will read how much water is on the road and then act accordingly. It's just what you expect from a 911.
Yeah, exactly. So smart.
All right, next, BMW, a couple of new vehicles. We already knew that the 8 Series was back, but they added to that.
Convertible.
And the big news for them, of course, is the long-awaited X7, their three-row large SUV, sport activity vehicle.
That's everything you expect it to be. BMW styling doesn't really blow me away these days, but the interior is just magnificent. I sat in the back seat, and the electronically controlled seat does all kinds of stuff. And I mean, it's big. It's big, and it's the SUV I think they wanted, and people who are into BMW are going to probably be happy with it.
Yeah, they'll sell a ton of those things.
This
Big
was
as
the
in.
U.S. coming out of the 3 Series, but they did show a new model.
M340i.
And over at their counterpart, Mercedes, their most of the products they brought to LA we had already seen, but they did bring a new AMG GT.
That's another car that's hard to tell the difference between the previous gen and this one.
If I had the previous gen, I'd be happy about that. though.
Yeah, I agree. They put a new steering wheel in it. They've added I forget exactly what they call it, but basically another like computer system to help with dynamics and lighter wheels. But they did add a GTR Pro version, limited release, which is the AMG GTR, which we had in Roebling last year.
Yes.
Is very track oriented, and now they take it a step further with the Pro. Lighter wheels, different suspension setup, and again, it's limited release, so not everybody is going to get one that wants one.
I'm confused about a lot of things, but I'm really getting very confused about e-tron. There are so
I know.
many of them.
Oh, yes.
But
Audi.
anything electric basically interests people, buyers in California. So here they show up with the new e-tron GT concept.
Well, it's confusing because is e-tron a model
It's their
or is
sub-brand.
it's a sub-brand? Because
Sort of.
Right. So the new SUV that we've already seen that Audi is doing, the e-tron SUV, I don't know what the official name of that is yet. But it gets confusing because it's both a
It's the
sub-brand.
Audi e-tron SUV, right?
Something like that.
So anyway,
We
I'm
should
with
know,
you.
folks, but our brains
There's so
are...
much information that it's hard to keep
and,
it all.
and like you said,
Well,
they
but, all right,
deliberately
beyond
confusing.
that, what was it? I mean, decent range, 250 miles, which I think is about what they did with their e-tron SUV. Looks, style, does it? I mean, I thought it photographs well.
It's a beautiful car up close. They were making a big deal, like comparing it to the S7, because it is that 4-door coupe design, and
mean,
it's
to me,
actually
it
sits
was-
lower than an S7.
Looks like an I-Pace in a way. It has that same kind of silhouette.
Yeah, but I mean, it's from everything I heard from their internals and other journalists, it sounds like the concept is going to be pretty close to what we see in like 2 years when they come out with a production
if
version.
they can just get the stuff to market, I think it could be a big hit.
It seems like we've been constantly hearing about e-tron for years, and we're now finally seeing production.
Big star in L.A. Kia Soul, 3rd generation. I heard the crowds, you couldn't get close to it.
Greg likes him some soul.
I do love me some soul. I'm a soul man.
It's about the same size, tiny bit longer. I thought it was even cooler looking than before.
Which it's funny, how do you update in a design like that? They did a good job. Sometimes something that's on the quirky side of things like that, it's hard to update.
Well, I remember when the second generation came out, we kind of accused them of stepping back and losing some of the cool, but it hasn't hurt the popularity. They made it bigger, and that's what people wanted. Stephanie, did you have a chance to get close to it?
They upped the cool factor for sure. It looks better.
Did they have the hamsters
Look more
there?
modern.
No, they said there was no hamsters in sight.
No more hamsters. That was,
No.
remember the commercials they used to have with the dancing hamsters?
Well, they took it away, then they brought them back because everybody missed them. They're going to do an EV version of it apparently as well.
Yeah, well, they have the one now.
Yeah,
They have one now.
But that's
they-
all. But this is like the modern day EV we're talking. I don't think they officially released
didn't.
numbers, but it has the same system as the Nero EV, which gets 239 miles.
Which was also there.
Yes, which was
we've
there as
seen
well.
that in Europe. But
Which you would think if you go to a dealership lot, would you buy either gas or EV? If you went to a dealer, would you buy the Soul or the Nero?
I think they're different vehicles.
I agree. Yeah.
The Nero is to me is actually, I can't believe I'm saying it. It seems like it's a little smaller, a little more manageable. The Soul's kind of gotten bigger, but I don't know. That's me. We like the
Both
Nero.
I'm taking.
We like the Nero so much, in almost any form. Speaking of the Hyundai Kia folks, Palisade finally their second go at a 3-row SUV. Anything about it stand out that maybe they'll have more success this time than last?
Yeah.
Well, they had success. I mean,
We thought
you're talking
maybe
about the
Veracruz.
Veracruz,
Yeah,
right? Well, then they just renamed the Santa Fe
right.
their 3-row, which
But
did
this-
really well because it had the Santa Fe name on it.
This is bigger. It's bigger than either
it's huge.
the Veracruz or the
Right.
Santa Fe.
But now the
3-row.
Santa Fe is just back to a 2-row.
Right.
So try to keep up, folks.
So most everybody, it's about the same size as a Pilot, my understanding, and has a similar style to what was it, the Telluride, the concept.
Yeah,
the
but
Kia version.
and then if you want to compare
that
it,
was Kia. Sorry.
That's the same. Yeah, the Kia version of the same
yeah.
vehicle.
yeah, if you look at it from the front, it looks like a big Santa Fe, but the back is pretty much in a league of its own in terms of Hyundai's at least. I thought it looked like a pretty good, luxurious vehicle for Hyundai, and it was massive. I sat in the third row behind where I would have sat in the second row, and I had plenty of room.
You know, they're getting big. I mean, we're now talking after driving this Atlas that we have on our long term quite a bit. You know, you're right up there in Tahoe country. It seems
It's
like as
Beautiful
far as-
interior, Napa leather. This is top trim level. We're talking about Napa leather, a push button shifter, which I know we all have our feelings about, but I was impressed.
It seems like it would be a great family vehicle, but I agree. It does seem a little bit larger than it has to be. The grille was a little bit too wide
in your
for
face.
my taste. The grill was really, you
such thing.
couldn't avoid it.
Oh, we should talk about that sometime.
But it did look very luxurious for its price point.
Speaking of looking luxurious and maybe a little further off, Rivian, a company that most people have not heard of, a technology company. I think they're based in Michigan. They showed up with two vehicles they've been developing and rumored about for a long time, a pickup truck and an SUV, the R1T pickup and the R1S SUV, both full electric. Look good on paper. What did you think when you saw them?
Talking to a lot of other journalists, that was the one thing that every single one brought up was Rivian. The pickup truck was particularly cool because it had a front storage compartment, a frunk. It had its bed and then like storage everywhere, even behind the cab and near the bed. You could open up a compartment and slide in like a tent or any long skinny object. And
It had a fold-down partition between the bed and the interior.
Are they more interested in actually producing this thing, or they want one of the big three to buy their technology?
Right now, they're talking about building it themselves.
They were
but
all
I think
about it.
that's a very good question.
Yeah.
I looked at the numbers and something's not lining up. You know, they're talking 400-mile range and quad motor all-wheel drive, and then they're spitting out like $60,000 pricing. It's I don't know. I'll believe it when it's on a dealership lot. I'm excited. I think it's cool, but until it's actually on the road, I mean,
Just remember, that $60 might be a base stripper that they never make.
right? Yeah,
Well,
that
and
could be a 200-mile range. Two motor,
But 60 is nothing for a pickup anymore.
Well, right, but that's the thing. If a gas pickup costs $60,000, how on earth are you going to build an EV pickup for that kind of money? I mean, this is going to be a six-figure truck, is my prediction. But I'm still excited, but I'm also tempering that with
would
a little bit of
would a
doubt.
classic truck person buy it? Would any Ford, Chevy, or
I don't think that's
I
who
don't
they're
think so.
going.
It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
They're going after
Yeah.
You know,
Somebody that has I don't want
a
to buy a
medium
truck.
duty personal use truck like a Honda or something.
Right.
No.
Ridgeline.
I'll just shut up.
Yeah.
then.
No, I
Please.
But I think they really got it right. Everything about it is so now, right now. This is what a lot of customers are looking for, from the design to the performance. I just thought it was awesome. Definitely one of my favorite vehicles there.
But did it look like it was ready to be driven? It was still looked very concept-y, right?
There, yeah,
It
it's
did,
not
but
ready.
I could definitely see it on
You
the
could
streets
see
in
the production version in
California.
there. Yeah. Well,
Maybe
I think
Florida.
you could see it on the roads around here.
If it's in Florida, it'll be in a ditch.
We hear a lot from some of our viewers, but almost I
Sorry,
bet
Florida.
30% of the vehicles we get in here now, if not more, have some kind of electrification, to them. So it's,
Oh yeah, we're always charging stuff.
it's
out
creeping
on our
in.
station.
As a matter of fact, we're almost to the point where we need another charger.
That
Yeah,
was
we-
actually going to be my rant, is that people keep parking in
That
front of the MotorWeek charger.
We had 3 of them the other week. We had 3.
Yeah.
Literally fighting
Yeah.
for charge.
for juice. And if that's happening here, I wonder what's going on out in the real world. All right, that's our wrap up of
Burning
the
gas.
2018 LA Auto Show. It was a terrific show by everybody's standards, and showed that auto shows, despite what a lot of car makers say, can pay off with big publicity if they do it right. We're going to move on real quick to a viewer question. And speaking of EVs, this Bill asked, who is going to pay the gas tax to fix the roads if everyone buys electric cars? Okay, what do you think?
I'm sure the government's way ahead of you on this one, Bill. They're going to get their money. Don't worry about it.
They've been talking for years about making all of us pay based on how much we drive per year. There's little insurance forms you fill out with what your mileage you're supposed to put down, how many miles you've driven every year. I can easily see the government either requiring us to do that when you register a vehicle and charging you tax on that, or frankly, probably a chip inside the car that tells them directly to make sure everybody tells the truth.
I don't know about how I feel about that, but
Yeah,
there
well,
was. I did a little research. There was a representative in Wyoming, John Barrasso, who proposed adding a highway user fee to EV drivers.
It's going to come for everybody, I think.
So he's on the. He's definitely on top of that, like Brian said. They'll get their money.
For instance, in our home state of Maryland, they passed a gas tax, and they thought they were doing the smart thing by making it tied 6% tied to the price of the gas. Well, gas has gone down almost continuously since then, so they're actually probably taking in no more, if not less, revenue than they were before when it was a fixed amount.
Yeah, they did that right when gas prices started to skyrocket.
Yeah.
You could just see all the money rolling in. But they'll get it one way or another.
One
It's
way
just
or another.
like,
So, Bill,
Don't you worry about that.
don't worry. You'll get fleeced no matter what.
similar to in our state as well with the alcohol and tobacco tax. Cigarette sales are way down, so they keep raising the tax. So they get the same amount of money. Just people are paying more and more for cigarettes.
I have to tell you, and this is my soapbox, I think we missed and are missing another opportunity in this country when gas prices are cheap to go ahead and put a national gas tax on it and pay for infrastructure. But I know I'm talking to the wind there. And rant and
crazy
rave,
talk
since
now.
we just really sort of did that. Anyone got anything else that they're happy or sad about during this holiday season? The fact that people are driving even crazier than usual?
Now, well, I was mad because I came in the other day to plug in our Nero, and somebody else had parked
There you
a
go.
Jeep
One of those-
Trackhawk in front of the
one of those
EV
that
charger.
combustion
one of the
engine
last
cars.
possible vehicles you want to have.
And I'm like,
blocking
oh
it.
dear,
well.
I'm becoming one of those pretentious EV drivers.
It was
Sorry, Joe.
whoever's
I always
fault.
felt you were that way.
Yeah, whoever decided to put it there shouldn't have put it where VIP parking is. So
Oh, God.
you know that's going to
I
happen.
can hear the
Okay.
passive-aggressive arguments happening now.
With that, we will bring to a close our podcast 194, mostly about the LA Auto Show. I'm John Davis. Thanks for everybody here at MotorWeek. And by the way, if you watch MotorWeek on your local public television stations, thank you very much. And if you watch us on the new Motor Trend Network, we appreciate that as well.
No, you didn't.
Basically, you can always catch us on our website at motorweek.org. Over at PBS, you can watch full episodes.
And see
YouTube
our
channel
pictures from the LA Auto Show.
and
Those
see-
are on the website, too.
And they're on our Twitter
And social media,
pages.
yeah.
All. If it's out there, if you can get it out there, MotorWeek is part of your day. We thank you very much. Until next time, I'm John Davis. For all of us at MotorWeek, have a great holiday season.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, and by Rain-X, Hum by Verizon, and State Farm.